We have in the studio Dr. Mambo Roxon. He's a political scientist, and Moses Anim is a member of parliament for Trobo constituency here in the Greater Accra region. He's actually just around the side, just close to the studios, I mean. And thanks for joining me. It's your first time joining me.
Thank you. How was your weekend? Well, very good. Very, very good.
All right.
Because the Lord God was on our side.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen. And we know that from the piece we're playing for you, that is the Vox Pop we had with some members of the public. It was on the international dispute on Ghana's maritime boundaries with Cote d'Ivoire. We know that the International Tribunal on the Law of the Sea, Hamburg, has ordered Ghana to go ahead with whatever currently it is doing as far as drilling is concerned in the West Cape 3-point area, but explore no new areas for oil. And so we'll see how that goes as far as that is concerned. But I have to start with you, Dr. Mambo Roxon. Your comments on the subject and the ruling as far as this very petition is concerned, not on the mains or the substantive.
Yes, I think it's very refreshing to Ghana. Because this allows Ghana to actually concentrate, Tulo, for example, to concentrate on the 10, and that is the Tinubwa, Enra, and the new discoveries that we've had, so that it won't actually because if they had stopped it, it will cause irreparable damage. Because at the end, we could have won that case, and they couldn't have actually repaired what they have actually caused Ghana. So for me, it is very refreshing for Ghana, and that we are able to breathe in very well now, and our lawyers will then prepare for the next stage of the case. This is round one, however, because there are several rounds to follow. So Ghanaians must know that this is not the last we are now to provide evidence to support our case that yes, we have that right to drill, and we are also cushioned by the fact that just last week the United Nations actually approved to extend Ghana's maritime shell by another 200 nautical miles. So that is a very, very good information and news for Ghanaians, and that with that ruling by the United Nations, I think we'll have a very good case to present to the special chamber of the International Tribunal on the law of the sea.
Your initial comments on
well, I think it's a good news. This is one area that all of us must get united and even pray for Mother Ghana to win this particular case, because we all know what the founding of oil has done for us. For now, it has contributed into our domestic economy. Recently, when the Minister of Finance came to Parliament to review the budget, it was solely based on the downturn of price, the world market price for crude oil, telling us that really it has made significant impact in whatever we do today. So I think all of us must get together on this matter. This is where I want to see a bipartisanship, Ghana first situation, so that we all pray for Ghana to win this particular case for the future and for generation to come.
But we're talking about the bipartisan nature of how the discussion should be. Is linking it to an editorial feature by the Finder newspaper, which said already the court's ruling on that very petition on the injunction has been received with some mixed feelings, especially on social media, with some online portals, of course, arguing MPP and DC as usual, and some saying the Minister of Justice was failing in her duties as far as defending this, and some saying that, well, the NDC side also saying that. But how crucial is this as far as when we're making the argument on the public discourse platforms?
Well, I think this shouldn't divide us. Basically, if we believe that the Attorney General is failing in certain areas, let us go help her. We should bring our ideas on board.
But so far that's not true, because...
no, but these are social media. You know, these days we have so many things on the social media, and you can't vouch for most of them as to where they are coming from, whether the sources are very factual or not. So let's forget about those social media things. Let us see Ghana as one on this matter. And let's win this case. And let's continue to drill, and let's continue to exploit, and let's continue to find more oil for this country. Because definitely, if you go through the 2015 budget as read recently, last year, you realize the source of income that came from oil, and then the support that has supported the economy. Some of us are not too happy about the application of the oil resource anyway, but I think as we move on, we should do better as we go on. But this is an issue that all of us must come forward and then argue on this matter for Ghana, and it should be Ghana on this matter. This is not politics.
Well, the patriotic Moses your comments on this?
Yeah, I think I agree with him that this should not be politics as usual, because what some of them were hoping was that we'll lose on this first round, and they will say yes, this is. But like he's saying, we should be united. And I also think that a lot of people have not actually understood the ruling. And the ruling is that we've won round one. We've won round one, and we are told not to issue out new licenses. But we've won round one conveniently, meaning that we will continue to work on the 10, and that is the new discoveries by Tulo. We are not asked to stop. Côte d'Ivoire wanted us to suspend everything entirely, but the special chamber says no, because of the irreparable damage it will cause to the country of Ghana. Ghana must continue to do it. So we won round one. So that is a positive, and we must applaud the Attorney General to do an excellent job in round two so that we can win that again. So we shouldn't politicize it. We should just go on to win it, be united as one, and then win that particular round two and probably round three.
Mr. Host, I think that Doctor should be able to drop the first sentence that he made, that others hope we are going to lose this case.
No, I'm talking about the portals. We were just talking about the portals. Okay. I'm not talking about a particular. Yes, so but I was talking about the portals, the information that has been distorted by some people who wanted to use this to cause mischief. That's what I'm talking about. Okay. You know, because we're just told by the host that some people were saying, trying to play politics out of it. They were
understanding now. And talking about politics, the 10-member committee set up by the Electoral Commission to review proposals on Ghana's electoral system has recommended that, for example, the date for general elections must be changed from December 7 to November 7. And this, the committee said, will allow enough time for the transition period, and so we can always meet that very date of January 7 for the swearing in, just in case we even tend to have a second round of the election. And the committee, of course, we know was inaugurated in January 2015, but we've had some reactions as well. The current chairman of the Electoral Commission, Dr. Kudjo Afarajan, said they will also take a critical look at the report, which so far has not been made public, so we still don't know what the contents there are, apart from only this one and a couple of other recommendations that have been said. But we all know this is stemming from the petition hearing before the Supreme Court, and the whole of 2013, almost 8 months, we were all glued to our TV sets and radio, clutching them, trying to get what the proceedings were. Your own comment on this?
I think this committee was formed because of what the Supreme Court came up with. They recommended that certain changes must be made to our electoral platform.
And tax the Electoral Commission to do it.
Yes, and tax the Electoral Commission to do it. And I think the setting up of this particular committee to look at, and their recommendations, moving the date from December 7 back to November 7 is a good thing for Ghana and our democracy. Because we need time. In the event of a second round, in the event of anything, we are able, for example, Togo had to suspend DS for about a week to recapture their voters, to correct their voters register. And in the event that we have that same situation, we won't have that luxury to do it, because our calendar, election calendar, is so tight. However, we should be reminded that America also votes on the same November 7th. And I would have suggested that they go a little bit like November 1st or something like that, but not November 7th.
Why?
Because that is when America votes.
Well, there's nothing wrong with America votes.
Yes, but they send observers. You know, they are some of our development partners, and they do send observers during these periods who may be very occupied, like the Carter Center in Atlanta. They normally come here to supervise elections for the United States. And you know Jimmy Carter, the former president, and I'm sure at that particular time they also
they can
be
do
busy.
proxy voting in many respects.
Well, they could do that. They'll also be busy. So it's a good thing that we should bring it back. For me personally, I would recommend, I would support that, we bring it back so that in the event of certain things we are not expecting, then we can correct those things. And also it will allow a smooth transition, whether it is still NDC or it is any other party who takes over.
When we are talking about reforms, we know it includes a whole lot more than when the date should be set for elections, etc. Within the process of the hearing of the petition, we even got to know that the subject of what the phrase should be and how it should be observed, verification of votes, etc., were all infringed upon in many respects. In the last election in Nigeria, even the president had difficulty for some time even before getting his own card verifying whether he was the same person or not. All these we need to put in place.
Yeah, when you look at the antecedent of our elections from 1992, we've had challenges, and as we move on, we've been trying to reform the entire electoral system as much as we can. That necessitated to the biometric registration and on. The biometric registration by its nature were supposed to have stopped this limited registration exercises, so that under normal circumstances, if the person catches up with age 18, he goes to the electoral commission and then he does it, so that this limited registration thing will stop somewhere, because it brings a lot of challenges to political parties where you need to organize yourself resourceful wise to make sure you have agents and all that. Other jurisdiction, these things are not there, so it brings more burden onto political parties. So you could see that there's continuous development in our electoral reforms as we move from 1992 to date. Per the Supreme Court ruling, we all saw what happened, even in terms of the colleagues who are in the foreign service. Their registration was even a challenge at the Supreme Court as to how many people registered as Ghanaians in the foreign service and students in the other jurisdiction, and as to what was in the voters register. So the voter register itself is an issue. It's an issue now that I think that the committee might have talked about it, but we all know that the entire report isn't out yet. So it entails a lot than this one. But when we come to this subject matter that we're discussing today, the transition has been a challenge, especially even when we go to the second round. And then the outcome of the transition, you see different reports coming out. The government, if the government is retained, or the party that won the election is retained, it was the previous government, they say different things. Then whoever handed over to whoever, there's challenges. At the end of the day, remember the Barclays Bank managing director's vehicle will have to be, and all these things must end somewhere. As we're moving forward, we want to see decency in improvement. There should be continuous improvement in our electoral processes and all that. So timing becomes an essence, and the time left, about a month or so, isn't a good thing, especially when we even go to the second round. So this move back is a good thing. As to the date, as Doctor said, for the 7th November, even if the Americans are having theirs, I think they can still make a room for their observers to come and do whatever they want to do. There's this that I want to chip in, that I want to go to one step forward. And it is this: I want us to come up with another committee, an independent committee, that will stand in between let's say if the MPP should win the election and the NDC is handing over, there should be an independent committee that is standing in the middle to go through the transition. And after that, except when an aspect of the handing over has a security implication, any other aspect must be brought to bear to all Ghanaians. There should be a total report that will be presented to every Ghanaian as far as the transition is concerned. So that if somebody comes out and is saying something different, that this was handed over to you, oh no, it was not handed over to me, this details was not available, oh no, this detail was available, those independent committee will listen to them.
I think there is.
Because for
one
now,
of the recommendations.
Now,
yeah,
yes, if that is there, is okay, because we don't want to see this conflict arising again.
A body that will make sure the smooth transition.
A transition committee.
Transition goes, you know, from the
it was recommended by
the IE. I think the transition committee
and the Supreme Court
that they form, they normally form. Was like this. The incoming government also will form his team. The exiting government will also form his team, and that was it. But I want to see an independent one in the middle, so that at the end of the day they can be consulted when there's disparities in whatever information that went through, so that we all be aware of what exactly was handed over to. And then you see, when you read your information here, it seems like maybe if an existing government wins the election, the handing over becomes a sort of an in-house thing. I still want that even if an existing government wins the election, we still want the transition also with this independent body to also be in there, so that whatever they
the public?
Yes, it's so a new government. The election, though to speak in its spirit, is a new government. Though the same government has won, but they are taking
those same party has won.
Same party has won.
But
yes, so that
is a different president. Yes. That committee is important.
No matter what.
If it is the same
now, for example, we're going to have. It's likely we're going to have the current president being the incumbent.
Yes, if you have the same president, he's taking a new tenor in government.
So you're saying that the transition committee or that very body is still important.
It should be very important.
Just to make sure the process of participation and also information.
If you talk about in-house transition within the party,
the Ghanaians are well informed after that, so that the same government or the same party that won wouldn't come out
during the period of the petition hearing, and we know that is stemming out of these and the other concerns that have been raised by the parties prior to the election, that we had the Electoral Commission also acting upon the recommendation of the Supreme Court in its report or the judgment. Okay, there was a subject of overvoting which really was not clarified, because as far as the complainants were, or the petitioners were, their own views on overvoting were at variance to what the commission's own status was on overvoting, and even what the defendants even said. As far one of the defendants, we're talking about some of the individuals within the NDC. Okay, how do we clarify that? Because the General Secretary of the NDC said these had been also mentioned in the report, as far as that is concerned.
No, I think what they should do is the equipment, verifying equipments are in stages. And the Electoral Commission, I believe they should take the recommendations and build one step ahead of what we had probably in 2012. Because if you look at the Nigerian elections, they came and went without problems. Because even look at the president, when he came to verify, initially his name was not, but they were able to verify it very quickly because the machines were more superior than ours. We should have a backup system where issues like that can be eliminated very quickly. There are modernizations, and I think what we went for might not have been the best for this country. I think we deserve the best, and we should get a machine that can work, for example, like other machines in the developed world, where you come in, you slot in a card, and the card is able to pick up your name straight on the machine, and your prompts are there for you to select. For example, you come in, you put in your card, it prompts up on the machine to say presidential elections. Then you pick your choice, then you press again, continue, it comes to parliamentary. You go to your region, and then you go to your constituency, and then you pick. I think these are very, very simple steps that are captured elsewhere, and our Electoral Commission can actually come up with that version of the machines, and not just stay with a particular ID card that you show to an electoral officer before he allows you to go and paint your finger, dip your hand in an ink and go and vote. I think we are above that. We should go a step further to use the computers, and where there are no avenues for them to be used, then we can use what we have now, because we bought them and they are still with us. But in areas like Kumasi, Accra, and other places where we had these problems, we should be a little bit modern.
Well, these are the systems. But with the systems come the administrative procedures and so the recommendations about what the reforms should be in-house of the Electoral Commission.
See,
because their processes, in many respects, just didn't synchronize with what people thought should be the norm.
You see, what happened at the Supreme Court was a definition of overvoting. If you remember, and the chairman of the Electoral Commission gave a classical definition and all that.
Well, we know.
You know that.
We know. The point is that
no,
as far as the evidence that was given in chief, we all got, as audiences, we all got varied interpretains from the
overvoting, yes,
parties in there about what their perception of overvoting was.
Yeah. You were point on the overvoting. That at the Supreme Court, overvoting was an issue as to how
they all agreed what is overvoting and what is was not.
Overvoting, where the basis as to is it.
Some said if the voter population of if the voting was more than the number in the register for the day that was overvoting. Some too said if the number that came,
they forgot to bring in transfer.
Good.
Which came in. So the interpretation was different.
So that is why.
The bottom line was like this. There was another issue about you have a ballot box, the number of ballot papers in it, vis-a-vis the number of people who voted, because you have a checklist there, you have a list there as to number of people who voted. And then when you count the ballot papers, vis-a-vis the number of people who voted, that's also an issue. You get my point?
Yes.
Because
there were some instances the papers were more than the number that were take to have.
Beautiful. So
and it could have been an error from those who were tearing the ballot papers.
Well, all these things,
it could have been.
The reform committee must address all these issues so that the Electoral Commission will look at them, synchronize them into whatever we are doing, and get it right. We have an IPAC also supporting. We have IPAC supporting. And with the advice of IPAC and then bringing everybody on board, we can work our way through. I know that there are other countries where after any election, the entire stakeholders come together to assess the previous election and then move forward as to the way forward, make inputs with the Electoral Commission. The Electoral Commission is able to take everybody's issues on board, look at which ones are feasible, which ones can be done, and then we all move on. Especially, see, I keep saying that stakeholders management and their input is key in any development, in anything that you want to do. When you use your stakeholders so well, they make inputs. Where you don't agree with them, there's an understanding. Where you agree with them, there's an understanding. Then we move forward. We can get a very good, I will not say no system is perfect, but at least we will get to an agreeable resource that everybody will agree to.
It was mentioned that they got the consensus of the two main parties, and we know that we're always very much biased as far as trying to incorporate which parties are strong and not, and we always say the MPP and the NDC. As far as the whole process was concerned, and indeed the whole political spectrum was involved. And this, I just read from the internet what the reactions were of the current chairman for the Electoral Commission. So everybody is saying something about electoral reforms, and there are people who keep saying the Electoral Commission is not serious. Electoral reforms are not done on one day. It requires very hard thinking processes because you have to do it within the context of the entire electoral framework. It's also not done by one person, and you need to collaborate with various stakeholders to build consensus on what is required. And we know we have IPAC and the other bodies that we have that we use in fostering a lot more dialogue as far as strengthening the electoral process and the participation of the various key stakeholders. How do we need to strengthen that very body as well? And I've heard that it's part of the reforms.
Yes, like my colleague was saying, I think the Electoral Commission needs to do a lot of consultation. My fear or my disappointment has been that since our election and the dispute, since the Supreme Court ruling, we haven't seen an activity from the Supreme Court in terms of interacting with the IPAC.
From the Electoral Commission.
Yes, from the Electoral Commission, you know. So what he's saying should have been done just after the Supreme Court. An IPAC meeting and the EC should have been called. And this commission shouldn't have been inaugurated this year, but should have been inaugurated the 1st of January 2014. So
we're even late in the process.
We're late.
Do you think as an institution, the Electoral Commission, because of its posture and the latitude that it has always been given, due by virtue of the fact that these are enshrined in law establishing it, has been very much complacent in many respects?
Exactly, and they've been very, very, sometimes they are so
laid back,
and sometimes they seem to be not existing in the system. Because it's not just about election. An electoral commission everywhere is an institution. And even though you have to bring about some reforms, these were mandated by the country's highest court, and that is the Supreme Court, telling you to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the Ghanaian public should have seen you in that light from the ruling. After the ruling, the Ghanaian people should have seen the EC involving individuals. Yes, I agree with the chairman of the Electoral Commission that it entails the participation of people or even stakeholders, but we haven't seen that until the inauguration of the IPAC on January 15th, 2015. I think it's too late, and they have just brought these individuals and taxed them with something they cannot achieve in totality. They can only achieve it by saying that you should move the date back, which is easy. It doesn't entail, it's not anything to move the date back. I don't think that will hurt the country. But the fact is, the changes that should have been implemented, like looking at the overvoting we're talking about and making sure and defining what is overvoting and making sure they define those issues that were not properly agreed upon during this Supreme Court hearing.
We're way behind time.
Yes, we're way behind time.
Right.
So we are. I'm afraid that if we don't do these things and define what is overvoting and what is not,
we will still be finding ourselves wanting
in the future. But I pray that it doesn't come.
I'll give you 30 seconds.
Yeah,
I have to change the subject to what the president is saying about the
like my senior brother is saying, you really cannot have one definition of overvoting based on what we have said. And Dr. Farijan realizes he's made a very good statement there. What is his action? Because if you really know that reforms doesn't take one day, it's a whole process that you have to change.
You should have started earlier.
You should have started earlier. What was stopping him?
Yeah.
After the Supreme Court ruling, what was stopping the Electoral Commission? Not him, but what was stopping the Electoral Commission? Because it's not entirely the Electoral Commission. The Electoral Commission is a whole team. It's a whole team.
Okay.
So what was stopping them from starting early so that we can meet the time, so we can all be free?
President John Dramani.